Welcome! Here we are again. This time we're looking at how much darker and, quite frankly, disgusting Disney's Sleeping Beauty could have been compared to, well, a few 3 older tales it turns out. Yes, the Brothers Grimm have a version of this tale, and we're going to explore that in just a second. But the origins of this dreaming girl in particular get really dark the further back in time we go. It's like a centuries-long game of telephone, each telling gets more and more disturbing as we go backwards. It is interesting to see what has been changed, what has been kept, and what was repurposed. So grab your time travel device and follow me into the dangerous wilds of Once Upon a Time. Sleeping Beauty's Nightmare, one of the most horrific fairy tales. First up, we've got Disney and Grimm. Disney's storybook animation starts off with a lovely celebration for the long-awaited baby Aurora, named after the dawn. Remember that for later. Her betrothed sees her in baby form, making their meeting later less creepy? Among the invited guests are 3 plucky fairies who bestow blessings, and 1 uninvited guest. Poor Maleficent. Anyway, out of spite, the scorned fairy curses the new princess to be pricked by a spinning wheel spindle before the sun sets on her 16th birthday, and die. Merryweather won't have that and lessens the blow somewhat. Aurora will only fall asleep until true love's kiss dispels the magic. So far, we are pretty in line with the Grimm telling, to be honest. In Grimm's Little Briar Rose, there are 12 invited wise women, and simply because the king didn't have 1 extra fancy golden place setting, the 13th wise woman in the realm couldn't be invited. An oversight which Disney's Maleficent totally references during her speech, by the way. Yeah, I'd be miffed too. Grimm's overlooked wise woman is not innately evil, just teed off she got rejected. Yeah, she does take it a bit far when she casts her curse. The king's daughter shall in her 15th year prick herself with a spindle and fall down dead. Like in Disney, the final wise woman does damage control. It shall not be death, but a deep sleep of 100 years into which the princess shall fall. Her reversal is a bit different in that no kiss is mentioned. Kinda good actually, as non-consensual kisses are problematic. In both Disney and Grimm, the king has all the spinning wheels destroyed. Disney goes into full romance territory. The hiding princess and nosy prince crush on each other. I mean, they did meet once upon a dream. This motivates him to slay the dragon Maleficent and save the kingdom and Aurora. Because of the romantic aspect in Disney, the curse does not last 100 years, but maybe a few hours. This dragon/intensively evil fairy was not in the Grimm tale, but it is some pretty epic animation and color. In Grimm, the princess is not hidden away, but of course Briar Rose finds the 1 spinning wheel left in the kingdom. Yeah, she has to go to an obscure part of the castle behind a locked door with the key in it, sees an old woman spinning flax. Remember that little grain for later? The princess has never seen one and naturally wants to try it herself. Lights out for the whole kingdom. We don't need a prince to save the kingdom in Grimm. The curse is up after 100 years regardless. But in that time, the sharpest of prickly rose bushes have grown around the whole kingdom, protecting all the sleeping inhabitants for a century. Note, in Disney, Maleficent curses these thorns around the castle to prevent Philip from getting close. Back in Grimm's, naturally a rumor starts that within the Briar Wall lies the most beautiful sleeping princess. Of course, the excitable princes from bordering kingdoms try to slip past the thorny barrier over the years. But they found it impossible, for the thorns held fast as if they had hands, and the youths were caught in them, could not get loose, and died a miserable death. That's probably the most gruesome thing that happens in this Grimm's tale, honestly. Anyway, ironically, or as foretold, the day the curse is set to be up, 1 prince decides to try his luck as well. When he arrives, the thorn barrier has turned to large flowers and welcomes him into the kingdom. He enters the princess's chamber and steals a kiss. At least she probably has the worst 100-year morning breath. Yummy. The prince turns to leave, but the princess wakes up from the nap of the century and falls in love with him. Whatever. Unlike Grimm's poor Rapunzel, Briar Rose is 115, so that's cool, I guess. Everyone else is now awakening as well and welcome the new prince. Happy ever after. The end. Disney credits their tale as adapted from Perrault, but I think it's way closer to Grimm's version. We're going to jump into the other versions now, so you can judge for yourself though. Where Disney and Grimm are very similar, barring Maleficent's role, and for the most part light, the tales of Perrault and Basile get very dark, in different ways. I'm letting you know right now that there's some not pleasant or acceptable happenings in those tales, so do watch with care. A stolen kiss, which is never okay by the way, is just the tip of the iceberg of horrific here. So grab some hot tea and a snuggly cat if that helps. On the topic of stolen kisses, that's not in Perrault's telling of The Sleeping Beauty in the Wood. In fact, our prince is the epitome of respectful young man, except for his sneaking around. Okay, so quick rewind. In this tale, things start exactly as they did in Grimm and Disney. Some exceptions are, the oldest fairy was presumed dead by everyone in the whole kingdom as she hadn't left her tower for 50 years, and so was not invited to the feast. She shows up anyway, upset, but the king lets her dine, but just doesn't have the time to make her the custom solid gold and ruby dining set that he made for the other fairy godmothers. Fun fact, this appears in Disney as a background. She curses the baby, etc. Same, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so princess falls asleep. The king father makes her the most beautiful silver and gold embroidered bedspread. The youngest fairy godmother, the one who reversed the curse, was 12,000 leagues away, but she gets word that the princess has fallen asleep from a dwarf wearing 7-league boots who sprinted to her. She shows up to the castle in a fiery chariot pulled by dragons and puts everyone else to sleep so that the princess wakes up to familiar faces. Similar to Disney. Within 15 minutes, new trees and vicious thorns spring up around the castle, protecting the princess from anything untoward during her sleep. 100 years pass, so cue our respectful prince, who is able to enter the castle without being impaled. He kneels beside the sleeping princess, no unconscious smoochy smooch. She awakens the second 100 years pass and kind of flirts with him. He tries not to laugh at her clothes, which are something his grandma would have worn. They stay and talk for 4 hours like soulmates do. In that time, everyone else has woken up and they are hungry. They break up the giggle fest to have a feast. The palace chaplain marries the prince and princess at once and they are left alone, but they slept little, for the princess had little need of it. Dang! Wink the heckin' wink. Happily ever. Nope, this tale is just getting started. The prince leaves the next day for his home kingdom and lies to his father the king as to where he was. The king buys it, so the prince keeps spending 2 or 3 nights at a time away from his parents' castle. This castle hopping goes on for 2 years, during which time the prince and princess have 2 children, a daughter Dawn or Aurora, and a son Day or Jour. One of those names sounds familiar. The queen mother is not fooled by her son's lies and knows he must be having a romantic affair. Even though the prince wants to tell his mother the truth, he knows he cannot because she is an ogress who cannot possibly contain her appetite when it comes to small children. What? Yeah, apparently her family had money, so that's why the prince's parents got together? Anyway, 2 years after that, the king dies and the prince assumes the throne. He makes his marriage to the princess public and the whole family moves into his castle. Of course, a war breaks out and he has to go fight it. The queen mother decides she would like to take the young family to a remote summer residence where it would be much easier for her to indulge in her ogress tendencies. Once they're all there, the queen mother tells the cook she would like to eat little Dawn. The cook goes to collect the child but finds he has too much of a moral compass. He takes the child to his wife for safekeeping and cooks a little lamb instead. The queen mother eats it, finds it delicious, and tells him she would rather like to eat Day. Same thing, cook hands the child to his wife and cooks up something else instead. A few more days pass and the queen mother tells the cook she would like to eat the young queen. And please make sure to cook her in that same sauce that he cooked the kids in. Well, at this point the cook is stuck. He just doesn't think he can find an animal with skin old and coarse enough to match that of an ancient 20-year-old's. Ouch. To trick the mother-in-law. So in order to save himself, he is set on killing the young queen, and she just sits there like, okay, do it. I'll get to see my babies soon in the afterlife. Whoops, turns out no one told her that her children were safe. The cook cools off and takes the queen to his wife to watch over, then serves the mother-in-law a dough. A few more days pass and the queen mother is prowling around the castle to smell fresh meat, like you do, when she hears the queen, Dawn, and Day playing. Furious, she orders that a cauldron filled with toads, vipers, and snakes be placed in the courtyard and the young family dropped into it to be devoured. Brr, brr, brr. What's this? The king returns home unexpectedly just before his family is dumped into the cauldron. What timing! The ogress mother is so maddened by what she saw that she dives headfirst into the viper cauldron instead and dies. The king is upset. It was his mother after all, but consoles himself with his beautiful wife and children. The end. Oh, we get an honest-to-goodness written moral at the end of this tale, which is convoluted, but I think it kind of boils down to essentially, girls, don't rush into marriage. Yeah, all this weird diet stuff, and that's the moral of the tale? I'm confused. Happy ever after, I guess. Dear viewer, we have now traveled back to the most brutal tale of this bunch. There is no joy to be had here. Look away. There's nothing but abhorrence and devastation on the way. But really stay, but be warned. I honestly had a tough time with this one, so just throwing that out there. This tale is Giambattista Basile's Sun, Moon, and Talia, and it requires a lot of euphemisms. It does not hold up today, thank all the lucky stars. Anyway, into it, shall we? Once upon a time, there was a great lord who celebrated the birth of his daughter Talia by inviting all the wise men and fortune tellers to predict her future. After much deliberation, they decided that she was in serious peril from a piece of flax. Remember that from before? The great lord is not having that and bans all flaxseed and hemp and such from his kingdom. We've encountered this before, and of course one day when Talia is a big girl, she encounters an old lady spinning and like all the other tales is curious and has to try it for herself. By accident, a piece of flaxseed gets caught under her fingernail and she falls down dead. When her father hears about the incident, he is so sad that he just abandons her non-responsive body propped up on a fancy velvet chair under a brocade curtain in an empty palace in the country, shuts the door on her forever, and tries to erase every memory of his misfortune. Sometime later, a king who is out hunting loses his falcon in that same abandoned palace. He sneaks in and sees Talia sitting lifeless on the fancy chair. He calls to her, but she doesn't respond because she's dead, because, quote, her beauty had inflamed him, he carried her in his arms to a bed and picked the fruits of love, quote. No means no, buddy, and no response is a heck no. This is not okay, king or whatever. Also, she is lifeless. We have a word for that, but he then just leaves her body in the bed and goes home where he, quote, does not remember what happened for a long time, quote. Lucky him. After 9 months, Talia unloads a pair of babies. Basile's words. Twins, a boy and a girl who look like bejeweled necklaces. She apparently had such a painless delivery that she's still dead. So, 2 fairies come to the palace and place the babies in the milk zone every few hours. One day, a baby mistakes her finger for the milk source and sucks out the flaxseed. Hooray! The result of an unasked for encounter saves the day! Oh, facepalm, ugh. Talia wakes up super confused about these babies and the invisible fairies who provide them with food, but just sort of accepts the situation and the, quote, jewels beside her as dear as her own life. The skeezy scumbag king finally remembers that pretty dead girl and finds an excuse to return to her. He is surprised to find her awake, given how he liked her so much unresponsive, and with 2 painted eggs of beauty. She doesn't remember him, she was dead after all, but he is so proud of his baby eggs that he tells her all the details of what he did to her. Then the 2 talk and, quote, made friends and a strong bond was established. What? After a few more days and nights with her, he returns home where he can't stop talking about her and the children that he got to name Sun and Moon. Naturally, his wife, the queen, is suspicious. I don't blame her. He's taking weeks for hunting trips that should take days and babbling about his love and 2 babies incessantly. She has her trusted secretary spy on the king, which the tale describes as a terrible, unjust thing for her to do, but honestly, I think it's absolutely her business. She, of course, takes things too far, tricks Sun and Moon into coming to the palace where she, that heart of Medea, orders the cook to cook them into various little dishes and delicacies. When the cook sees the 2 lovely golden apples, these descriptions, I'm telling you, he takes pity and sends them to his wife to care for, serving up 2 baby goats cooked in 100 different sauces instead. The king comes home and the queen enthusiastically serves him the special dishes. He eats everything with gusto and she encourages him to keep eating, saying, "Eat up, for what you're eating is yours." He ignores this until about the 3rd time she says it, at which point he yells at her for being unable to have children and storms out. Feeling the need for even more revenge, she has her secretary trick Talia into coming into the palace. Instead of finding the king, Talia is confronted by the jealous queen, who calls her all sorts of nasty, nasty names and blames her for the king's infidelity. Talia tries to explain that it wasn't her fault and that, quote, the king had taken possession of her territory while she was under a sleeping spell. The queen is too angry to listen to excuses or reason and orders Talia to be burned in a huge bonfire in the courtyard. Playing for time, Talia asks not to be burned in her clothes, which are very fancy, so the queen would rather keep them unsinged for herself. Talia wails and screeches as each article is removed, and finally, down to her petticoat layer, the king shows up, gets the truth out, and orders the queen to be thrown into the fire instead, that she may become compost in the broccoli plot. He also orders that her secretary and everyone else associated with the horror be thrown in as well. The cook, however, says that rather than be burned alive, the king should reward him, and handsomely, for he actually saved Sun and Moon from, quote, returning to the body of their father. That cook is named Gentleman in Waiting. Then the king marries Talia right away, and yes, I'm so glad you asked because this tale too has an honest-to-goodness moral. Ready? Talia recognized after all her ordeals that for those who are lucky, good rains down even when they are sleeping. What? I would not call being abandoned and then assaulted good or lucky. I call it a cop-out for unacceptable kingly behavior, or unacceptable behavior in general. Ugh, happy ever— nope, this just way too messed up. Anyway, that's our time travel into Sleeping Beauty's horrific origins. A lot of these things are not alright or okay, and dang, I really want to watch kitten videos, meow. But did you grow up with any one of these versions of the tale? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching this doozy of an animation. I do hope you enjoyed it, serious subject matter aside, and that you are having an excellent day, or night, or afternoon. Anyway, welcome! Glad you're here, and I'll catch you soon in the next video. Goodbye!